Shankaracharya's teachings. But if one does a little bit of research, one can understand that Shankaracharya is actually, he's actually, he's Lord Shiva, or is he Shaktivesh avatar, or Lord Shiva himself, but either way, he is actually a fully self-realized soul, and the only reason why he's teaching impersonal philosophy is because of the particular circumstances at that time where the Vedic philosophy was not anymore so much accepted and Buddhism was very prominent. And Shankaracharya basically gave access to atheists and impersonalists to enter into the understanding of the Vedas. And sometimes Shankaracharya did exhibit some of his internal mood. Also, there is also a famous verse where Shankaracharya said, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Muda Mate, which means worship Govinda, worship Krishna. He said 3 times. This means it's a very important instruction. Muta means fool. So this was an instruction to one of his disciples. And I don't know the exact circumstances. Apparently this disciple was not very intelligent. And so the followers of Shankaracharya don't see this as the essence of his teachings. They just say, oh, this disciple was not very smart, so he should worship Krishna. But it gives us some understanding that Shankaracharya was actually a Vaishnava. But we don't follow his teachings. And Lord Chaitanya said that if one hears this Sharirakabhasya, the purport, impersonal purport on the scriptures, one immediately loses all his devotional credits. But this is not Sharirakabhasya. This doesn't belong to this. So here it goes. Sometimes in great happiness, Lord Jagannath makes a loud concert with his flute in the groves on the banks of the Yamuna. He is like a bumblebee tasting the beautiful lotus-like faces of the cowherd damsels of Raja. And great personalities such as Lakshmi, Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Ganesha worship his lotus feet. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision. In his left hand, Lord Jagannath holds a flute. On his head, he wears peacock feathers. On his hips, he wears fine yellow silken cloth. From the corners of his eyes, he bestows sidelong glances upon his loving devotees, and he always reveals himself through his pastimes in his divine abode of Vrindavan. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision. On the shore of the great ocean, within the large palace, atop the brilliant golden Nilachal hill, Lord Jagannath resides with his powerful brother Balabhadra and his sister Subhadra, who sits between them. May that Jagannath Swami, who bestows the opportunity of devotional service upon all godly souls, be the object of my vision. Lord Jagannath is an ocean of mercy and as beautiful as a row of blackish rain clouds. He is the storehouse of bliss for Lakshmi and Saraswati, and his face resembles a spotless full-blown lotus. The best of demigods and sages worship him, and the Upanishads sing his glories. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision. When Lord Jagannath moves along the road on his Rathayatra car, at every step, large assemblies of Brahmanas loudly chant prayers and sing songs for his pleasure. Hearing their hymns, Lord Jagannath becomes very favorably disposed toward them. He is the ocean of mercy and the true friend of all the worlds. May that Jagannath Swami, along with his consort Lakshmi, who was born from the ocean of nectar, be the object of my vision. Lord Jagannath, whose eyes resemble full-blown lotus petals, is an ornament on Lord Brahma's head. He resides on Nilachal hill, with his lotus feet placed on the heads on the heads of Anantadev. Anantadev is the 1,000-headed serpent. Overwhelmed by the mellows of love, he joyfully embraces Srimati Radharani's body, which is like a cool pond. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision. I do not pray for a kingdom, nor do I pray for gold, rubies, or wealth. I do not ask for a beautiful wife as desired by all men. I simply pray that Jagannath Swami, whose glories Lord Shiva always sings, apparently himself writing this, may be the constant object of my vision. O Lord of the demigods, please quickly remove this useless material existence I am undergoing. O Lord of the Yadus, please destroy this vast shoreless ocean of sins. Alas, this is certain. Lord Jagannath bestows his lotus feet upon those who feel themselves fallen and have no shelter in this world but him. May that Jagannath Swami be the object of my vision. Then this is the... there's a particular name for verses, that this last verse, which we did not sing. Shruti-phalam. Thank you. It explains the benefits, the merits of chanting this song. And the translation is, the self-restrained virtuous soul who recites these 8 verses glorifying Lord Jagannath becomes cleansed of all sins and duly proceeds to Lord Vishnu's abode. Haribol. We made it, yes. Duly. Duly means very soon. Within the next 10,000 births. No, I'm joking. It's said, actually, if you have the darshan of Lord Jagannath on Rath Yatra, then when the time comes that you leave your body, that the whole life is played like a TV, like a movie in front of you, and when the picture comes, Lord Jagannath, it just stops. I heard. Hare Krishna. So, okay, we will at least chant, recite the translation of one of the verses together. Perhaps the last verse. O Lord of the demigods, please repeat.
O Lord of the demigods,
please quickly remove this useless material existence.
Please quickly remove this useless material existence
I am undergoing.
I am undergoing.
O Lord of the Yadus,
O Lord of the Yadus,
please destroy this vast, shoreless ocean of sins.
please destroy this vast, shoreless ocean of sins.
Alas,
Alas,
this is certain. Lord Jagannath bestows
this is certain. Lord Jagannath bestows
his lotus feet
his lotus feet
upon those who feel themselves fallen
upon those who feel themselves fallen
and have no shelter in this world but him.
and have no shelter in this world but him.
May that Jagannath Swami
May that Jagannath Swami
be the object of my vision.
be the object of my vision.
Patita Pavana Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Now we go on to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 13 of the Madhya Lila, which describes the dancing of Lord Chaitanya in the Rath Yatra festival. We will not recite any particular verse, but we will be reading. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 13. And we have half an hour. We will see how far we get. And I will not comment much. So let's just absorb in this pastime and try to prepare ourselves for the festival so that we know how to celebrate Rath Yatra, that we don't end up, like Radha Govinda said, just end up talking all the way and then the festival is over and oh. So the ecstatic dancing of the Lord at Rath Yatra. Yes, it is chapter 13 of the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya. Yeah, we start from the beginning. We will skip the summary. The summary is Lord Chaitanya danced and chanted in the festival. And then there are some conversations also, and Lord Chaitanya is exhibiting some of his ecstasies. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya, who dances in front of the car of Sri Jagannath, be all glorified. By seeing his dancing, not only was the whole universe held in wonder, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished. All glories to Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the verse that we chanted together. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Krishnadas Kaviraj recites this, or he writes, I believe, in front of every chapter, to invoke the blessings of the Panchatattva. It's addressing the same persons as the Panchatattva mantra that we chant usually before chanting our japa, before starting a kirtan. All glories to the listeners of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hari Bol, that is all of you. Please hear the descriptions of the dancing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Rath Yatra festival. His dancing is very enchanting. Please hear of it with great attention. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates got up in the dark and attentively took their early morning baths. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates then went to see the ceremony of Pandu Vijay. During this ceremony, Lord Jagannath leaves his throne and gets up onto the car. King Prataparudra in person, as well as his entourage, allowed the Pandu Vijay ceremony to be seen by all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his prominent devotees, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu and others, were very happy to observe how Lord Jagannath began the Rath Yatra. The very strongly built Daityas carrying the Jagannath deity. That's how they are called, the Daityas, apparently. Were as powerful as drunken elephants. Yeah, not normal elephants, drunken elephants. They manually carried Lord Jagannath from the throne to the car. This ceremony is observed in ISKCON Leicester. I've been there one time. They try to do it as much as possible as they do it in Jagannath Puri. And they have a lot of gongs. There was, I think, 20 devotees banging the gong, so you have to watch out for your ears. And then Lord Jagannath comes and he dances. They carry him on, and then he has this big crown on his head, and everything is moving. So he dances as he comes out, and he goes in the cart. While carrying the deity of Lord Jagannath, some of the Daityas took hold of the shoulders of the Lord, and some caught his lotus feet. The Lord Jagannath deity was bound at the waist by a strong, thick rope made of silk. From two sides the Daityas caught hold of the rope and raised the deity. Strong, puffed up cotton pads, called tulis, were spread out from the throne to the car, and the heavy deity of Lord Jagannath was carried from one pillow-like pad to the next by the Daityas. While the Daityas carried the heavy Jagannath deity from one pad to the next, some of the pads broke, and the cotton contents floated into the air. When they broke, they made a heavy cracking sound. Lord Jagannath is the maintainer of the whole universe. Who can carry him from one place to another? The Lord moves by his personal will just to perform his pastimes. While the Lord was transported from the throne to the car, tumultuous sounds were made on various musical instruments. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting, "Manima, Manima," but he could not be heard. Here we read the purport. The word Manima is used to address a respectable person in Orissa. Lord Jagannath was being respectfully addressed by Sri Chaitanya in this way. It's like, "Oh Lord, oh Prabhu." Manima. While the Lord was being carried from the throne to the car, King Prataparudra personally engaged in the Lord's service by cleansing the road with a broom that had a golden handle. Sometimes in our festival, Rath Yatra festivals, there are delegates from the government. Sometimes they come and get to do this service. I believe in London, maybe, what's his name? The Prime Minister, current Prime Minister, he's a No, that's a long time ago. No, but he's a Hindu, and he visits the temple frequently. Also, Swayam Bhagavan Kesha Maharaj, who's coming in a few days, he met him personally a few times, and is preaching to him. So they sometimes come and we offer them this service of sweeping in front of Lord Jagannath's cart, which is a very humble service. While the Lord was being carried from the throne to the car, we had this. The king sprinkled the road with sandalwood-scented water. although he was the owner of the royal throne, he engaged in menial service for the sake of Lord Jagannath. Although the king was the most exalted, respectable person, still he accepted menial service for the Lord. He therefore became the suitable candidate for receiving the Lord's mercy. Upon seeing the king engaged in such menial service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. Simply by rendering this service, the king received the mercy of the Lord. First, Srila Prabhupada says here, unless one receives the mercy of the Lord, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or engage in his devotional service. Then everyone was astonished to see the decorations on the Rath cart. The car appeared to be newly made of gold, and it was as high as Mount, which Mount? Sumeru, not Mount Matterhorn. Sumeru is described in, I think, the first canto. It's very high, thousands of kilometers. ISKCON Rath Yatra is rival to the Nelson column. This is Srila Prabhupada saying. In Trafalgar Square, that's in London. And then,
I'm just reading.
Yeah, the Nelson column is a very impressive statue of Lord Nelson and can be seen from a good distance, just as the residents of Puri compared the Rath Yatra car to Mount Sumeru. The residents of London considered the car rival to the Nelson monument. The decorations included bright mirrors and hundreds of chamaras, white whisks made of yak tails, what we use on the altar for the arti. On top of the car were a neat and clean canopy and a very beautiful flag. The car was also decorated with silken cloth and various pictures. Many brass bells, gongs, and ankle bells rang. For the pastimes of the Rath Yatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath got abroad one car, and his sister Subhadra and elder brother Balaram got abroad 2 other cars. Abroad means they left their home, they left Jagannath Mandir to go towards Gundicha. For 15 days the Lord had remained in a secluded place with a supreme goddess of fortune, with the supreme goddess of fortune, and had performed his pastimes with her. The 15-day period of Anavasara is also called Nibritya, in honor of a solitary place where the supreme goddess of fortune lives. After living there a fortnight, Lord Jagannath took permission from the goddess of fortune to leave. Oh, I didn't know that he took permission, actually. I thought he just left, but we'll find out. This is the period where Lord Jagannath is recovering from his cold, which we have now, where Lord Jagannath is staying in a secluded place. Having taken permission from the goddess of fortune, the Lord came out to ride on the Rath cart and perform his pastimes for the pleasure of the devotees. The word is Tanhara Sammati, her permission. So, confirmed. The fine white sand spread all over the path resembled the bank of the Yamuna, and the small gardens on both sides looked just like those in Vrindavan. As Lord Jagannath rode in his car and saw the beauty on both sides, his mind was filled with pleasure. The pullers of the car were known as Gaudas, and they pulled with great pleasure. However, the car sometimes went very fast, and sometimes very slow. Sometimes the car would stand still and not move, even though it was pulled very vigorously. The chariot therefore moved by the will of the Lord, not by the strength of any ordinary person. So we have this story of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur when he was a little boy. His name was Bimala Prasad, and he was living with his family at the road, on the road where Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra takes place. And his mother went outside with the little child, and then the cart came and it just stopped in front of their house. and then his mother took the child in front of the deity. There is opportunity for fortunate devotees to sometimes touch the feet of Jagannath also, but there are millions of people, so not everybody gets the chance. But then it's explained that the garland of Lord Jagannath, which is very big, it's a huge garland, it just fell off on the deity. It just circled the child, Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Prabhupada's guru. It just fell around the child. And Shishi Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shishi Gaur Nitai ki jai. And Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who was his father, he took this as a sign that Bhaktisiddhanta is that person who he has been waiting for. He was praying to have a son who would be the preacher, who would become a great preacher and spread this Krishna consciousness. And when this happened, Bhakti Vinod Thakur understood that there were also other signs, but this was a sign that Jagannath has given him special blessings. Then, as the car stood still, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered all his devotees and with his own hand decorated them with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Bharati were both personally given garlands and sandalwood pulp from the very hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This increased their transcendental pleasure. Similarly, when Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu felt the touch of the transcendental hand of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were very pleased. The Lord also gave garlands and sandalwood pulp to the performers of Sankirtan. The two chief performers were Swarup Damodar and Srivas Thakur. There were altogether 4 parties of Kirtan performers comprising 24 chanters. In each party there were also 2 mridanga players, making an additional 8 persons. When the 4 parties were formed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after some consideration, divided the chanters. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Haridas Thakur, and Vakreshwar Pandit to dance in each of the 4 respective parties. Swarup Damodar was chosen as the leader of the first party and was given 5 assistants to respond to his chanting. The 5 who responded to the singing of Swarup Damodar were Damodar Pandit, Narayan, Govinda Dutt, Raghava Pandit, and Sri Govindanandana. Advaita Acharya Prabhu was ordered to dance in the first group. The Lord then formed another group with Srivas Thakur as the chief man. This is quite an elaborate description how Lord Chaitanya was organizing the Sankirtan, and we should actually try to be quite organized when we have our Harinams also. Indradumna Swami is quite popular for doing this quite systematically. They have dancers, and then they have, it has to be a leader, somebody who actually takes charge. Otherwise, it'll be all random, and nobody knows who is singing, and nobody's playing the cartels. Things are out of beat. So Lord Chaitanya was actually picking the persons who were good in dancing, then some mridanga players. Each group had 8 mridanga players or 2 mridanga players. I think 2 mridanga players, yes. And then the kartal players. And the 5 singers who responded to the singing of Srivas Thakur were Gangadas, Haridas, Shriman, Shubhananda, and Sri Ram Pandit. Sri Nityananda Prabhu was appointed as a dancer. Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. So, especially when we have festivals for the public, usually it's difficult for them to chant. And we need to have devotees chanting with us. Another group was formed consisting of Vasudev, Gopinath, and Murari. All these were responsive singers, and Mukunda was the chief singer. Another group, another 2 persons, Shrikant and Vallabhasen, joined as responsive singers. In this group, the senior Haridas Thakur, was the dancer. The Lord formed another group, appointing Govinda Ghosh as leader. In this group, the younger Haridas, Vishnudas, and Raghava were the responding singers. 2 brothers named Madhava Ghosh and Vasudev Ghosh also joined this group as responsive singers. Vakreshwar Pandit was the dancer. There was a Sankirtan party from the village known as Kulinagram, and Ramananda and Satyaraj were appointed the dancers in this group. There was another party that came from Shantipur and was formed by Advaita Acharya. Achyutananda was the dancer, and the rest of the men were singers. Another party was formed by the people of Kanda. These people were singing in a different place. In that group, Narahari Prabhu and Raghunandana were dancing. So there are a lot of names which we may not be able to relate to so much, but just hearing names of devotees, you actually get a lot of blessings. It's said that if you remember a person favorably, then you inherit some portion of their good qualities. And also, many of these devotees, they are more elaborately described in other parts of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you may remember them if you read this wonderful book. 4 parties chanted and danced in front of Lord Jagannath, and on either side was another party. Yet another was at the rear. So usually when we have our Rath Yatra festivals in ISKCON, they are performed on the road, and there's usually a little bit less space than in Jagannath Puri. This road is very wide. So usually we have one right at the front, and in between each cart, and at the very end is another one. But here, Lord Jagannath, they're all around Lord Jagannath's cart. One at the front, left, right, and at the back. There were altogether 7 parties of Sankirtan, and in each two, men were beating drums. So I assume that they also had another. The rest of the parties were spread out between the carts. Thus 14 drums were beating, played at once. So each party had 2 mridangas. All the Vaishnavas came together like an assembly of clouds. As the devotees chanted the holy names in great ecstasy, tears fell from their eyes like rain. When the Sankirtan resounded, it filled the 3 worlds. Indeed, no one could hear any sound or musical instruments other than the Sankirtan. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wondered. Now it comes, this part where Lord Chaitanya is dancing. And Lord Chaitanya's dancing was very unusual. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandered through all the 7 groups chanting the holy name. Hari, Hari, raising his arms. He shouted, "All glories to Lord Jagannath." Please chant. All glories to Lord Jagannath. Jai Jagannath. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then exhibited another mystic power by performing pastimes simultaneously in all 7 groups. Everyone said, "Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is present in my group. Indeed, he does not go anywhere else." This reminds us of Krishna's pastimes. For example, when he was sitting with all the cowherd boys, each and every cowherd boy was thinking that Krishna is only looking at me and only smiling at me. But he was doing this with every cowherd boy. Everyone said, "Lord Chaitanya is present only in my group. Indeed, he does not go anywhere else. He is bestowing his mercy upon us." Actually, no one could see the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Only the most confidential devotees, those in pure unalloyed devotional service, could understand. Lord Jagannath was very much pleased by the Sankirtan, and he brought his car to a standstill just to see the performance. King Prataparudra was also astonished to see the Sankirtan. He became inactive and was converted to ecstatic love of Krishna. When the king informed Kashi Mishra of the glories of the Lord, Kashi Mishra replied, "O king, your fortune has no limit." The king and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya were both aware of the Lord's activities, but no one else could see the tricks of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these 2 devotees, they were able to see that Lord Chaitanya was present in different places at once. Only a person who has received the mercy of the Lord can understand. Without the Lord's mercy, even the demigods headed by Lord Brahma cannot understand. Without the Lord's mercy, even the demigods headed by Lord Brahma cannot understand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been very satisfied to see the king, accept the menial task of sweeping the street, and for this humility the king received the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He could therefore observe the mystery of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. Although the king had been refused an interview, he was indirectly bestowed causeless mercy. Who can understand the internal potency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? When the 2 great personalities, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Kashi Mishra, saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy upon the king, they were astonished. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes for some time in this way. He personally sung and induced his personal associates to dance. According to his need, the Lord sometimes exhibited one form and sometimes many. This was being executed by his internal potency. Indeed, the personality of Godhead forgot himself in the course of his transcendental pastimes, but his internal potency, Lila Shakti, knowing the intentions of the Lord, made all arrangements. Just as Lord Sri Krishna formerly performed the Rasa Lila dance and other pastimes at Vrindavan, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed uncommon pastimes moment after moment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing before the Rath Yatra car could be perceived only by pure devotees. Others could not understand. Descriptions of Lord Krishna's uncommon dancing can be found in the revealed scripture Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in great jubilation and inundated all the people with waves of ecstatic love. Thus, Lord Jagannath mounted his car, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inspired all the devotees to dance in front of it. Now please hear about Lord Jagannath's going to the Gundicha temple, while Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced before the Rath cart. The Lord performed kirtan for some time, and through his own endeavor inspired all the devotees to dance. When the Lord himself wanted to dance, all 7 groups combined together. The Lord's devotees, including Srivas, Ramai, Raghu, Govinda, Mukunda, Haridas, Govinda Nandana, Madhava and Govinda all combined together. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired to jump high while dancing, he placed these 9 people in the charge of Swarup Damodar. These devotees, Swarup Damodar and the devotees in his charge, sang along with the Lord, and they also ran beside him. All the other groups of men also sang. Offering obeisances to the Lord with folded hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised his face toward Lord Jagannath and prayed as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Krishna, who is the worshipable deity of all Brahminical men, who is the well-wisher of the 1,000 Brahmanas, and who is always benefiting the whole world. I offer my respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead, known as Krishna and Govinda. Okay, we conclude with this verse. If you know this mantra, you can chant along. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Then, yes, this description goes on, and maybe in the next couple of days, some of the devotees will continue to read from here, or would be nice. Grantaraj Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Rathayatra Mahamahotsava ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Panchakalpa. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Jagannath Swami Nayana
Sit in the seats, first class.
Haben wir choices daily Prabhupada reading books gemacht?
Now I can do whatever I like. Aha, das ist so Deutsch. Das ist auch erklärt in Charitamrita.
Jagannath Swami Nayana.
Weißt du, das ist
Yay.
Bhavatu.
Na, also, wir sollten das
Google it. Google it. Also, ISKCON Desire Tree hat viel so Zusammenfassung, das ist nicht perfekt Englisch. Ist egal. Fast so breit wie lang. I finished. Yeah.
so speziell Ausbildung.
Genau.
Das ist ganz wichtig, dass sie da, wenn sie heimgebracht haben, ist sie als erstes auf der Geländerolle in Praxis.
Und das Hospital ist ja die Grenze.
Ja, ganz nicht.
Ja.
So eine Nebenstraße, wo du kannst nicht dort rauskommen. Und dann sind dort, wo wir gewohnt haben, ist die ganze Geländerolle. Ich habe es im Kopf, ich kann es aber nicht mehr erinnern, wie lange
das wird auch erklärt. Dass dann Lakshmi kommt raus und also ich habe mich schon das steht dort, dass er Permission kann.
Und dann wahrscheinlich auch ein Punkt.
Weil der Devoti kürzlich hat eine Vorlesung gesagt, während Lakshmi Devi Lakshmi hat sich ja um ihn gekümmert und erkrankt ist. Und nachher ist sie saniert gewesen, ist sie eingeschlafen und dann ist sie abgehauen. Das hat er gesagt. Ich weiß nicht, ob
das
das
kann ich nicht so erinnern. Aber eben, es ist noch etwas los gewesen.
da gibt es vielleicht auch verschiedene Geschichten.
Ja, weil es heisst ja auch, wie die Klasse heisst, das ist eine Wiederholung. In einem anderen Zeitalter hat man vielleicht eine Story, oder ist schon wirklich different passiert.